So, uh, so you weren't there, or you didn't kind of witness, I guess, the initial build-up to the 2021 sort of January GameStop boom, I'm assuming.
No, I didn't. I didn't see the initial buildup. I know people ask if I've been here since the beginning, the Wall Street Bet days and the DFV days, and I didn't see Roaring Kitty videos until after it was halted. When I saw him on the Capitol Hill was when I was really intrigued. I was like, okay, they actually got this guy away from YouTube to ask him these questions, and that's when I really started doing my homework fundamentally on the company itself. But I was not there before it. No.
Interesting, but you kind of, did you see the moment kind of when the buy button was shut off and that whole, gosh, what was your reaction, I guess, to the buy button being turned off?
So the day the buy button was turned off, I was at work and my buddy came and told me, and he said, hey, we just bought into GameStop and we can't sell, or we couldn't buy anymore, we had to sell. And they had bought in like around $230 a share. And I thought, wow, okay, well, what is your plan? He's like, to get in and get out. And sure enough, they sold for some type of profit. But I thought it was pretty particular because I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen a security get shut down on a mass level. It wasn't just one, it was multiple securities. But I didn't know that at the time. I was still stuck at work. By the time I got home, it was national news.
Yeah, I guess, I think the interesting thing with the buy button was it was like a huge pivotal moment, it felt like, throughout the whole thing. And it seems like there was a thing that happened where we got a kind of an official explanation from, after the whole fiasco ended up, settling down. I guess it'd be interesting to know, like, why do you think that happened? Why was the buy button shut off? And do you believe the official explanation for why that happened?
Well, now that we know, or what was reported about the buy button being shut off, how do I feel that explanation actually makes sense, right? There was a report by the financial committee that was the House Financial Committee. It's called GameStop. And when you read the report, it tells you that there was a marginal requirement that was eclipsed. They didn't have the money to back the trades that were happening. And in this instance, when you think about Robinhood was allowing you to buy GameStop on margin. So they were allowing you to open up an account with $1,000, and they were matching your $1,000 with $1,000. So people were putting in $1,000 and getting a free $1,000 at GameStop, and it was triggering this cycle of opening an account, getting an extra $1,000, opening an account, getting an extra $1,000. And after that one day, January 27th, they knew they didn't have the requirements for the 28th. And that's what was reported. So do I believe their explanation why they shut it down? Absolutely. They were going to get buried. But it wasn't just Robinhood. It wasn't just these Wedbush, these bigger firms that were like $1 billion in. There were firms in for over 25 billion that were upside down. And that's been reported. So yeah, they were going to flip this market upside down, and they knew they had to shut it down for the safety of themselves, is what the report said.
Gosh, yes. It's interesting because I think, and we've spoken about this a little bit as well, it feels like, so around that time, and especially around the question of what happened to the buy button, it feels like the official explanation was not accepted by quite a lot of GameStop investors on Wall Street Bets, which started like another, I guess it began a kind of thought process around like what actually happened. Is that something that you noticed, that you saw happening, that you weren't on board with to begin with, or you kind of waited to see what happened? What was kind of your experience of looking at how the theories unfolded when that buy button was stopped?
When the buy button was stopped, there's a lot of theories out there. I've swam in this series of Reddit, right? All the subreddits that have all these explanations about what they thought happened with them. And this is where camps got set up, where people say, you know what? I'm rolling with the answers of Wall Street Bets, or I'm rolling with Superstock, or I'm rolling with GME Jungle, or I'm going with whomever, whatever. And everyone has their idea of what happened or why it happened. And me personally, just to tell you, James, I don't waste my time on it because it's not going to make a difference, right? Reflecting on the past, and you can't change it. It was 3 years ago, and I can't tell you X, Y, and Z is going to lead to my outcome here. I just focus on the company and the fundamentals of it. Individuals that dwell on that, well, they're still upset about a lot of things, and that's just unfortunate because it's not going to change anything.
I think it's interesting for me because one of the questions that I did want to ask, because a lot of the belief kind of went down this route of the buy button was shut off, it was potentially due to some level of corruption, whatever, insert the various ideas around that, which then led to the concept that the short positions on GameStop had not been closed. I don't. Do you believe that shorts closed in that during that period, or where do you stand on that?
So you asked the question that everybody asks: are the shorts closed on GameStop? And my official answer is no. Right, that's what I believe. That's what I've seen. But I have seen them get moved, right? Like as in a swap of some kind. And we know this because when it got halted, magically everything disappeared. They redid the math and they said, okay, we went from 226 short position all the way down to 30, all the way down to 20. And right now it's at 20, 30 in that range. And I would just tell you 20 to 30 is what's reported. Remember that shorts do not have to report. Any hedge fund does not have to report their short position. But when they do it voluntarily, that number alone, the 60 million shares that are short right now, that would move this market a mountain because GameStop, when it has volume, it goes up in price rapidly. So yeah, even the 20 to 30% would cripple a lot of people.
Gosh, interesting. Because, and I guess from my perspective, it's interesting to hear that, because then does that mean that reporting that has been out there is false or is not true, or because when you tell me that the shorts haven't closed, obviously when I speak to people who are more on the industry side or more critical of the movement, they'll say, oh no, that's not true. Most of the shorts have closed. It's already been reported. Is what you're saying that isn't the case, or?
I would tell you, from my perspective about shorts and closing and not closing, and individuals in the industry, they can have their cookie cutter answer. But the truth is, GameStop doesn't have the volume, and it hasn't had the volume to show a close. I'll give you this example. When you looked at numerous other securities, AMC and or Mullen Automotive, they had days or weeks where they had billions of shares traded back and forth. You have not had that at GameStop. They had minimal volume for the last year and a half. No one's touching it, but yet we have a 60 million short position against it. There's no volume against it. We've only had one day this year where there was even volume on the stock. So you couldn't close what they're saying they're closing, because as the price jumps up, new shorts get in it. And they keep trying to bring it on down, but it's being shorted for the wrong reason. The stock is not fundamentally failing. It's actually progressing. So I don't know why they're not closing, but shorts, that's another whole world, coming in and out of the stock and how they make their money. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll touch on more of that. Then I guess, and you kind of already answered it, but I guess to get it in its own question, what do you believe is the current short position of GameStop?
I believe the current short position for GameStop is 25-30% right now. That's what's being reported. What I think is beyond that, I don't know. I'll just say 31%, 1% more than what they report. I'm not going to worry about it because it'll roll over tenfold. I learned this, James. There was a couple of stocks out there where Bill Ackman was shorting stock, or Carl Icahn was shorting a stock against Bill Ackman, and it was called Herbalife. It took 5 years to play out. So right now we're in year 2.5, basically 3, and I don't think anything's going to be coming to a crescendo moment until GameStop's fundamentals prove positive. The momentum of the company is going in a whole different direction, and then you'll have like a Tesla-like short position close. So if you saw what happened to Tesla when they got announced to the S&P 500, they went up 6x. When you saw that they actually were going to do a split, they went up again, and it's been a roller coaster ever since. But GameStop has that potential, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, gosh, you.
I guess guys, do you mind if I just jump in to follow up on a couple of points that Marantz, you made, if you could just expand on, if that's all right. Sorry for interrupting the flow.
No, you're fine.
I think at one point while you were talking, you mentioned that these shorts, this company was being short for the wrong reasons. I think there's something that you said.
Yes.
Could you just expand on what that means?
Sure.
Do you want me to ask that as a question, or do you want to just get Marantz to jump into it?
I think either's fine. If you want to jump straight ahead, Marantz, that's okay.
Okay. So, I make a comment where I say the stock is being shorted for the wrong reasons. Every stock in America is short. There's always a short position on one company or the next, because it's just a bet that the stock is going to come down, the price is going to come down. It's when multiple investment firms actually jump on a stock, and they jump on it for the reason of having insider information. And I've already outlined this before on the channel, and this is why I have the channel, to tell you that private equity on our end is what people should be focusing on, and not so much as the person they put in front of you. I'll give you the example, Robinhood and or Citadel. They tell you, pay attention to King Griffin, pay attention to Vlad at Robinhood, and it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the fact that there were people on the board of directors at GameStop that were overextending and overexpanding the company, hiring the firms like BCG, using this landscape that they need to expand and be bigger brick and mortar when that's obsolete. You know, you want to use your technology side of it, e-commerce. So Ryan Cohen writing a letter to people at the board of directors, you know, and this was November 16th, 2020. He writes the letter and he tells them, I don't want to do the job myself, but your company's being shorted to the ground because you guys are doing the wrong things. And this has been institutionally known. So whenever the shorts see this, whenever they see their people in place, they see these board of directors that have previous history with bankruptcies and private equity, they go all in. They know exactly how the playbook's going to run. It's going to run them dry, sell them short, and you're going to make your money. And that's happened, rinse and repeat, on America for a long time, maybe 40, 50 years now. So GameStop was supposed to be just that, and it's not that. So
prior to Ryan Cohen kind of writing to the board, etc., would you say then that what GameStop was being intentionally run poorly, or would you just say its position was a natural state of where like the gaming, retail industry was at?
So prior to Ryan Cohen getting to GameStop, GameStop was a profitable company. It was running perfect. And gaming's a growing industry. It's not declining. Your market share, what you could get out of it, depends on what you put into it. And this is all in all sectors of retail. I study retail. That's what I do. And when I saw GameStop's footprint and I saw what they were doing, I was like, wow, they're overextended. The margins are not lining up. And I'll give you this example, James, not to get us way ahead of ourselves. But GameStop currently has a smaller top line revenue, right? Everyone's reporting it. They fell off in the last 8 quarters. They've come down from $6 billion to 5.7. And you go, okay, they've lost $300 million of top line revenue. But how many stores did they close? And how much did they give up to lose the $300 million of top line revenue? Well, it's actually zero what they lost because their gross profit has increased over those same 8 months from 1.348 billion to 1.375. So they've increased $30 million of gross line profit, yet they dropped off on top line, meaning they haven't lost anything. They just cut off the fat. They cut off what was institutionally put onto them. Go look at every company that's been overextended over the last 5 years. You're going to see Kohl's. You're going to see Bed Bath & Beyond. You're going to see retail in general just get overextended because that's the play. They call them category killers. And private equity has been involved with GameStop for 10, 15 years. And intentionally getting them there. And you can accelerate their demise when you do the wrong things. Well, Ryan came in with a pocket full of money, 2 board of directors with them, and they made a fundamental change. And that's the difference for GameStop.
Got you. I guess then maybe circling back, given where its potential short interest is at, do you think that it's possible? I know you mentioned that there being a situation where in a few years there could be like a close on shorts. Do you see it being possible for some kind of short squeeze situation driven price spike happening? And if so, I guess what exactly are you expecting in terms of that sort of price spike?
Well, there's 2 things that you're asking, to ask what happens when the shorts close, right? Like, is the price going to move? Is this going to be a MOAS, as they call it, a mother of all short squeezes? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they're not going to let it run away from them, the short sellers themselves. I would anticipate partially closing as it moves on up. As they realize their losses or as they lose their collateral, they lose their short versus their long, what are they going to put in? If the economy goes down, everyone's going to be in a lot of trouble because they're using the blue chip stocks, the 7 stocks that actually run the S&P 500. They're using those as collateral. You pump those 7 stocks, you're okay. But when you lose those 7 stocks, if the S&P were to come down, they would lose their collateral for their short. And we know this because you will see it on the balance sheet. It'll say, X amount of securities have not sold. That's what they haven't sold yet versus what they have sold. And it's just well-known market mechanics for them. So when it all plays out, James, what am I going to do? I'm going to watch it happen, but I'm going to keep buying more because I love GameStop. I love the fundamentals of the company and where they're headed. That's just me.
Got you. Yeah, we will definitely touch on that as well. I think we kind of skimmed over it, but I still think it's an interesting part of what developed from the community, the idea of a quote-unquote MOAS. Do you mind explaining what that is and kind of what you believe that means for GameStop, and if you even believe in it as a concept?
The concept of MOAS, just if that's what we're asking and answering. A lot of people don't know what MOAS means. And mother of all short squeeze just means it's going to be a very volatile event. As shorts close, they become buyers. So as the stock price goes up, everyone has to keep buying in to close out their short. And that then triggers a higher price point. So you'll have price discovery. But what I've seen happen to markets and stocks individually is that people are closing and or opening positions after hours. So there's no price action. And that's another whole aspect of market makers not realizing the value of what people are trying to create. I saw huge orders go through just this weekend, and it was after hours. So it has no effect on the price itself. So I don't know where people are going to find their value or where they're going to close at. But for me personally, I know the stock's undervalued right now. GameStop just happens to have the highest book value retail of any stock on the market today. And I'm talking about retail stocks, because the book value itself, right, which would be about $4.15 a share, makes up around 25 to 30% of the stock. No one has a book value 25 to 30% in retail right now. So that tells you that it's undervalued. So when you find the fundamental value of the stock, then maybe shorts will start closing again. But it's not going to happen today. We'll see how it happens.
I guess, where do you kind of expect, obviously I know you have optimism around GameStop's share price. It's hard to know for sure, but I guess where do you sort of see that price going to?
Well, where do I see the price of GameStop going is all dependent on what Ryan Cohen does moving forward. Now, Ryan Cohen recently just passed, and there's like this little passage on the 10Q, and it says that Ryan Cohen, RC Ventures, now has the right to fundamentally invest with GameStop and with the dollars they invest. So Ryan Cohen's personal wealth can be put behind GameStop now, and vice versa. Whatever they invest in and Ryan's invested with, they can have similar interests. And this happened before. This happened when Warren Buffett bought out Berkshire Hathaway, and they were just a textile company, and now they're a holdings company. So GameStop is now officially a holdings company, but they won't be until they buy something. So when people find out what they're invested in, this could be Ryan Cohen going at the shorts themselves. If he invests in what they're long in, well, guess what? As their long goes up, so does GameStop, and that's their short. So it can happen twofold. This can be a two-pronged approach. But Ryan's out there fighting the good fight, and this is going to allow GameStop to do a lot of things that no one thought they could do. So yeah, the value's infinite. That's my opinion.
Got you. It's interesting because it felt like, especially sort of even during the early 2021 sort of GameStop squeeze that happened, there was a sense that it turned from both an investment opportunity but also into a movement of sorts. And I think that's obviously lingered from there into, what are some of the communities around sort of GME retail investors today. I'd be curious, I guess, to know what you think of that transformation from both an investment opportunity to a movement, and what exactly the movement is about, and why that transformation happened in the first place.
Sure. James, initially investing into GameStop, the investors felt like this could turn into that movement that people call it. They say, oh, this is a movement, this is no longer an investment. And that's necessarily not a bad thing. That can be a good thing because it has a lot to deal with brand loyalty. Gamers grew up buying at GameStop, shopping at GameStop, and now they're parents. And we're parents. I'm a parent of 5 children, and I buy my kids games. I buy them accessories. I take them to GameStop at midnight, and we do those midnight releases like I did when I was growing up. So it's a lineage of that, but the movement itself is no different than any brand loyalty thing you see. When there's people out there buying Teslas because they're invested with Tesla, or they shop at Costco because they're invested with Costco. It's the same thing with GameStop. I saw people for Christmas buy Christmas gifts only from GameStop because they're invested with GameStop. So it mimics the same thing. It's not something brand new, something that's never been done. The only difference is there's a subreddit for it, there's some YouTube for it, there's some Twitter for it on the GameStop movement side. But absolutely, it's a movement, and I'm proud to say that.
It does sometimes feel more so than just a brand loyalty thing, that there is a side of it which is about kind of taking on corruption on Wall Street in particular. I feel like that's also a big component too. I guess, do you not sort of dabble in that component of the communities, or have you not kind of seen anything from that end?
You know, James, the corruption fight, the one that people want to stand out on the street corners and talk about the financial, downfall, as in, hey, we could stop all this manipulation of the markets, the system itself, and the rich eating the poor. People want to do that. And there are some people like that. Unfortunately for me, I'm not one of them. I have a job. I don't have time for that. I barely have time to make YouTube videos. But when I do, I try to stick to the positive side of what GameStop is. And fighting the shorts or fighting the market manipulation, I feel you can't change the system, so try to win within it at the moment. And that's what I'm trying to do. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Gosh, yeah, that makes sense. Do you mind me asking kind of how often you yourself invest in GameStop, and do you kind of tend to regularly put investments into GameStop every month, or how does that look for you?
So the investment of GameStop and how I do it, I buy a share pretty much every single calendar day that they're open, the market's open. I post my buy orders on my private Discord with all the investors that see the channel. We have almost 1,000 people in the Discord. So you see buy orders just come up. Everyone posts whatever they're buying. Not that you need to buy like I'm buying. I encourage everyone to do it how they want to, but I'm slow and steady.